Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The family of an 8-year-old boy who was gunned down speaks out.
A school body now broken after the death of that 8-year-old boy.
Former Attorney General ALLYSON Maynard GIBSON says the FNM must move forward with the spy bill.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Kyle WALKINE. Topping news tonight, family members of the 8-year-old boy who was gunned down by a stray bullet as he was doing homework inside his Rosebud home yesterday, describing his shocking death as their worst nightmare. Our Jasmine Brown headed back to the scene this morning where she spoke with Eugene E.J. Woodside's heartbroken relatives who say they are still reeling from his senseless death. Here's her report.
Grief-stricken relatives screamed in agony outside the home yesterday as word spread of the 8-year-old boy's shocking death. Those emotions still ran high this morning as EJ's grandmother, MARSHA Murphy, recalled hearing the fatal gunshots from inside her home, which sits just feet away from the house EJ shared with his parents. Murphy says she was at home babysitting several of EJ's little cousins when she heard the gunfire, which the children inside mistook for firecrackers. She says her first instinct was to protect the children, including this 10-month-old baby boy.
What I do was what you're supposed to do. Talk and rule, that's what I did. And check for the children to make sure who was home to be careful or whatever, but that was it.
So when did you realize something was wrong?
When I heard the lady over there screaming, I heard the screaming, I went over there. When I went over there, they, when I look, I see they were coming over with the baby in her hand and they was hollering, so that was it.
Police say the little boy was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time as a stray bullet struck this wall, entering the home and striking the little boy as he was doing his homework. The tragic incident occurred just after 5 p.m. when police say shooters approached a man in his early 20s on Rosebud Street and opened fire. As he fled, the gunman caught up with him just outside EJ's home. The suspect shot their intended target while EJ was hit by a stray bullet.
When the police arrived, they met two males. They met an adult male suffering from gunshot wound. Then they met a young child suffering from gunshot wound. They were both rushed to hospital in critical condition, and we can confirm now both of them have succumbed to their injuries. Based on our preliminary investigations, we can tell you that the adult male seems to be the target of this intended shooting. We can say that the child, the 8-year-old, seems to be just an innocent person who was shot.
We visited the home this morning, however, it appeared no one was there. Murphy says EJ's parents are completely distraught over his death, especially his mother, who recently found out she is pregnant. In an emotional Facebook post this morning, she expressed her undying love for EJ as she described the day he was born and the day he died as days she would never forget. Meanwhile, EJ's grandmother described him as a little boy who was loved by everyone who knew him, including his little cousins, whom she says were inseparable. In fact, Murphy says had they not come home late from basketball practice, they would have been with EJ when the fatal shots were fired.
I was here all day, and I used to be vigilant to make sure they get inside or whatever and everybody be okay. If they was home, they would have been all in the bath there. That's where they just be, in the bath there to that door. That's one day I was glad they didn't come home on time today.
His little cousins who stayed home from school today were too sad to speak about their murdered cousin. You want to tell us about your friend EJ, your cousin EJ? And as the family struggles to pick up the pieces, police are searching for clues in a bid to find the suspect. Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean says the suspect escaped in a silver van.
The pressure is on. We are appealing to the shooters, the person responsible for this egregious offense. This is serious offense, that you can, an innocent child get shot and they cannot sleep tonight. knowing that an innocent child was shot, who has nothing to do with this, who's just beginning life. So we're going to be, an intense investigation, an island-wide manhunt is launched. We have to find these killers.
Anyone with information on the case is asked to contact police at 911-919 or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIP. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, Eugene's other family, those at his school, also broke in after his death. Teachers, staff, and students at the primary school he attended all now trying their best to cope. Here's April Sands.
It's an emotional day here at Albury Sale Primary after the death of 8-year-old Eugene Woodside, who was tragically killed last evening in his home. Classmates of 8-year-old Eugene wrote letters expressing their love for their friend as the school brought in counselors to speak with students about his tragic death. Tearful Principal Catherine Rose remembered the little boy with a beautiful spirit.
Eugene left school yesterday with his ice cream cone. He went with his best friend across to Bamboo Shack, where he waited for his grandmother. We didn't know that yesterday would be the last time that Eugene would be with us.
Rose said it's been a trying morning attempting to answer the innocent questions of his crying classmates on how he died while doing his homework.
Doing the right thing, doing the right thing. And like I said to the children, we probably would be where we're supposed to be, but we don't know what will happen.
Eugene's homeroom teacher, Talithia Strawn, recalls how yesterday he came to her car and helped her to carry her books. She said she never thought it would be the last time she would see him alive.
It was just like, no way, I just saw him, you know. It was refreshing to come in, to see him in the morning. He had a unique smile, and I think it was his effort. He always gave a good effort. He always tried. Even if he got something wrong, he tried. And I think that's really all I can ask for.
Strawn appealed to parents and lawmakers to use this opportunity to take a bold step in, quote, turning the country around.
I know that crime and unemployment make for a better campaign platform, but there should be a sense of obligation to the youth of the country to do the right thing.
The primary school teacher says one day at a time is how she's choosing to move forward in the wake of this tragedy.
I think I am really going to have to face it when I go before that class to teach another lesson, and he's not there to raise his hand to attempt a question. Reporting for our news, I'm April Sands.
Well, the Prime Minister and his cabinet were troubled to learn of that tragic killing of that 8-year-old boy. While he did not go into any details, Press Secretary Anthony Newbold said government's plans to fight crime will have to be tweaked.
The police do their job, you know. How do you stop somebody who decides they're going to ride down the street and shoot someone? And of course, a straight bullet. You'd say certainly nobody has control of that. The police do their job. And somebody commits a crime, they are before the courts within a day or so. They're doing what they're supposed to do. It's the rest of society that has to do.
He said all segments of society must accept responsibility for the crime problem and work together to fight it. The press secretary also referenced the government's plans to fix the CCTV cameras in certain areas throughout New Providence.
You're talking about information. The police can't be everywhere. One of the things the Minister of National Security talked about was those cameras and the fact that they weren't working, and it looked really good. And it may have deterred a couple of people who thought they are working, but they weren't working. And so here's the police with what should have been great tools to help them in what they were doing. Didn't work. So again, as we talk about plans, hopefully those cameras can get working real soon again, so the police will have one more tool in their fight against crime.
In other news, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis is expected to make a comprehensive statement on the government's offer to the country of Dominica tomorrow in the House of Assembly, according to Press Secretary Anthony Newbold.
The Prime Minister has been surprised that an offer that was made to accommodate students for their education receive that kind of reaction. But again, he will speak extensively to it tomorrow, all of that.
Amid some public backlash, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis is expected to deliver a thorough plan to the nation Wednesday morning in the House of Assembly on government's plans to assist Dominican students displaced by Hurricane Maria. Press Secretary Anthony Newbold says Minnis didn't expect the backlash he received, but is preparing to give an answer to lingering questions tomorrow.
Again, there are all kinds of questions raised. Some of them with merit, and people have a reason to ask questions if they don't know the answers. And so that is what he will attempt to provide tomorrow when he communicates to the House of Assembly.
Several other CARICOM countries have made offers of relief to Dominica, which was ravaged by the deadly storm. In the absence of a detailed plan, the Bahamas Union of Teachers and the opposition have refused to take a position on the Prime Minister's offer.
Again, those details are being worked out, and any further details will be worked out, certainly with the education and immigration ministries. But again, Cabinet is meeting. Prime Minister will, I don't know that there are numbers now. I don't know that there are numbers. He could very well have some numbers tomorrow. But again, Cabinet is meeting, and a lot of those questions that people have raised will be answered tomorrow.
Newbold said Prime Minister Minnis was simply moved after his meeting with Dominica's Prime Minister and made the offer, which was the topic of discussion in Cabinet Tuesday morning. The press secretary, while taking question after question from the media, defended the Prime Minister's decision.
It was an offer. It was not an offer that necessarily needed details at the moment. What is happening now is exactly what should happen. You're in trouble. We want to help you. I think one of the ways we can help you, we'll let your students come go to school with us. We'll work it out. That's what's happening now. And there was never any intention not to let the Bahamian people know all of the details. And that is, again, that is what will happen.
Social media has been abuzz with mixed reaction to the extent of some confusing the country of Dominica with the Dominican Republic. A possible language barrier was also a concern raised.
I don't know why there should be a language barrier. The main language of Dominica is English. And don't forget now, we have Dominicans who live in the Bahamas. You know, some butlers, some rows. Of course, we know the Garrays, Lavilles, Dominica.
Well, former Attorney General Allyson Maynard Gibson is calling on the government to move ahead with the Interception of Communications bill, insisting 21st century tools are needed to seriously combat crime. Here's Georgia O'Bain.
The Interception of Communication bill was introduced back in February by the Progressive Liberal Party and instantly became controversial and labeled the spy bill by members of the then opposition. Well, now the Free National Movement has determined that they will move forward with their own version of the bill.
Of course they have to continue with it.
Former Attorney General Allyson Maynard Gibson says as reality sets in and the Minnis administration is tasked with leading the country and making tough decisions, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis and his cabinet are now embracing many Progressive Liberal Party plans that the Free National Movement previously criticized. One such plan, she says, is the so-called spy bill, which the last Christie administration saw as an effective crime-fighting tool.
The spy bill, as they call it, is something that it is not a spy bill, first of all. It is not a spy bill. What it is an extremely important tool in law enforcement in the 21st century. If we are going to actually be seen to be a country that takes seriously combating crime, especially gang-related crime that is cross-border, we have to use 21st century tools.
While in opposition, Dr. Hubert Minnis accused the government of ramming the Interception of Communication bill down Bahamians' throats. He also warned that the bill posed dangers and ought to be rejected. Maynard Gibson said she could go on and on about the number of things the FNM has switched its views on since coming into office in May. However, the one thing that sticks out in her mind is the Minnis administration's decision to move forward with the Interception of Communication bill, which she says needs to be revamped as soon as possible.
How do you have a bill that has not been revamped since the 1940s?
When the PLP introduced the bill in February, Maynard Gibson, who was the Attorney General at the time, said it would have enhanced protection of the privacy of law-abiding citizens because of the Supreme Court, not the executive, would determine which communications may be intercepted.
I want to emphasize that the protections are in that bill. They were in the bill that was brought forward by the Progressive Liberal Party. Unfortunately, it was just overtaken by politics. But it's too important, as I said, to be a political football, political tool. What will happen is that before any order to intercept communications can be given, it would have to be heard by a judge. I'm quite satisfied that that's still there. They haven't tabled the bill yet in Parliament. That it will be there, I'm sure. And that is the protection for all law-abiding citizens.
Attorney General Carl Bethel has said the government intends to bring the bill to Parliament early in its term and insisted that the Minnis administration's version would have had tighter controls than those contained in the old bill. Reporting for R News, I'm Georgia Bain.
Still to come on our news, an historic wall unveiled at the Magistrates Court complex. Plus, following several delays, Stephen Dillard School to open next month. Stay with us.